Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really core, free choice, or at least the feeling of it.
Right, that sense we all have that we're making our own decisions.
Exactly. But we've got a source here that, well, it encourages us to maybe look a bit deeper than just that surface feeling.
It really does. And it's not necessarily saying, that your feeling of choice is wrong or invalid,
Okay.
but it poses this really interesting question. Beyond just feeling like you choose,
Hmm.
what actually underlies our existence itself?
Mm.
What shapes our desires? What fundamentally drives our will?
Hmm. Okay, so let's start where most of us live, I guess. It feels pretty simple day to day, doesn't it? Like,
Absolutely.
I want coffee, I make coffee, I decide to read this article, I read it. The source acknowledges this, right? That we feel we have total autonomy.
It does, yeah. That's kind of the starting point, this
Mm.
powerful, very natural feeling that we're the sole authors of our actions, that our desires just spring up from within us.
Purely from ourselves.
Yeah. But then that's where the challenge comes in. The source sort of nudges us, asking, okay, but what's the foundation? What actually causes us to exist in the first place?
Yeah.
And what sparks those desires?
Mm.
What constructs the very will that then leads to a choice? It
Hmm.
uses this term self-will.
Self-will, right. What exactly does it mean by that? Is it just wanting stuff?
It's a bit more like the feeling of agency, I think, that
Hmm.
internal engine, the thing that makes you want to act or choose something, the drive.
Okay, the drive. Got it. So the source wants us to question where that drive even comes from.
Exactly. And this is where it gets, well, pretty introspective. It suggests we should try, almost like an experiment, to observe ourselves.
Observe ourselves like from the outside.
Sort of, yeah.
Ah.
Mentally step back and ask, what is it that activates this self-will? What actually generates our self-consciousness, that feeling of I am?
Wow, okay.
Uh,
That's deep.
it is. It's a call for some serious self-reflection, almost like playing detective on your own mind.
So what kind of questions does it suggest we ask ourselves in this self-investigation?
It gets quite fundamental. Questions like, how do I exist? What proof do I have? What even makes me know I exist?
Hmm.
And then what motivates me to want reality to be different than it is right now? Why do I desire change?
Okay.
And maybe the most direct one for choices. When I pick option A over option B, what are the real factors determining that specific choice? Not just the surface reason, but deeper down.
Right. So it's pushing past the immediate, I wanted pizza, to, but why pizza and why now and what underlying mechanism led to that want?
Precisely. It's about really committing to that inner search, digging below the surface of conscious decision-making.
Okay, so if someone actually does this, really dedicates themselves to this
Mhm.
deep introspection, what happens then? What kind of insight does the source hint at?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The source suggests you might arrive at a pretty profound insight. It hints at potentially recognizing a deeper reality, something beyond our everyday awareness that it calls our real self.
Our real self. Okay, that sounds significant. Does it define that?
Not in great detail, no. It's more suggestive.
Hmm.
It implies this real self is a more fundamental, maybe more authentic aspect of who we are.
And how does this connect back to choice or will?
The source seems to touch on the idea that this real self might be linked to a sense that ultimately everything aligns with our deepest will.
Aligns with our will. That sounds almost like a sort of supreme power or something. Is it
It
suggest?
doesn't explicitly say supreme being, but it points towards a potential understanding where your fundamental will and reality itself might be deeply interconnected, maybe even unified. It's a big concept, definitely.
Yeah, that's quite a leap from just asking why I chose tea over coffee. Does the source give, like, reasons why we might be connected this way? Or how it influences choices without us knowing?
It doesn't really lay out a step-by-step argument there. It's more like through the process of this deep self-questioning, this perception of alignment or unity might just emerge. It's presented as a possible outcome of the introspection itself.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up then. We start with this very strong, very immediate intuition. I choose freely. My choices are mine.
Right. The default human experience.
But this source basically says, hold on a second. Don't just accept that feeling. It kind of throws down a challenge, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It forces us to ask, what's really driving the bus? What fuels your desires? What shapes your decisions deep down? What's the actual foundation beneath that everyday feeling of you?
Yeah, it leaves you with a pretty big question to ponder, really.
Definitely. Is that feeling of free will the whole story? Or, is there perhaps a much deeper layer, more profound understanding we could reach if we actually investigate where our sense of self and our motivations truly come from?
Something to chew on long after this deep dive.
The